This is a brief overview of some of the activities that have been taking place in the real estate appraisal world. Under the Trump administration, the Federal Housing Finance Agency, who is the conservator over the GSEs, including Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, had given a mandate to modernize the lending process, including the valuation part of lending. As part of this modernization process, the objective was to speed up the lending process, to standardize the way that loans are being originated and sold in the secondary market, lower the time required for the originating lender to be released from the reps and warrants, which is the liability component that the originating lender has with the GSEs, and to modernize the appraisal process. The secondary financial markets have developed a risk assessment matrix, which includes the risk associated with the property. Fannie Mae has what they call a CU score, developed on their collateral underwriter, where the lower the score, the lower the risk, the higher the score, the higher the risk, with the rating going from 1 to 5. As part of Fannie Mae modernization process, they are looking for ways to collect data on the property that allows them to analyze the risk associated with the property and determine what type of valuation is required to use that property as collateral in making a loan. At this point, they have proposed that data collectors be used to collect about 120 points of data. There is a specific set of pictures that would be required, and the data collector would then measure the property and transmit that information back ultimately to Fannie Mae. Once that information has been received by Fannie Mae, they do their analytics and determine how best to proceed, starting with a waiver where no appraisal is required, or where the information is then conveyed to an appraiser for an appraisal based on the perceived risk of the property. Fannie Mae has been experimenting with what is commonly referred to as a bifurcated appraisal. A bifurcated appraisal is made up of two parts, where the data collection process is completed first and the appraisal itself is generated as a second component of after the data collection has been obtained. So step one is that the property data is collected, possibly by a third-party data collector, possibly by an appraiser. The information is then analyzed, and ultimately, if an appraisal is required, is conveyed to the appraiser, who then completes a desktop appraisal. The objective of having the process split into two pieces and having the data collection taking place at the beginning is to speed up the process. The question still remains if that process is actually sped up, or if the process is compromised by having third-party data collectors separate from the appraiser in collecting property data. In 2019, the Appraisal Foundation introduced the concept as an alternative to obtaining appraisal experience with a trainer-trainee model. The program is referred to as Practical Applications for Real Estate Appraisal. The acronym is PAREA. This program would allow a trainee to be able to go through a program of virtual reality training that would allow them to obtain the training necessary to become a certified or licensed appraiser. At the present, the program is designed for residential only and is expected to be completed in about a year. The changing of the de-minimis requirements for lenders in obtaining appraisals has become a hot topic in 2019. In 2019, adjustments were made to the de minimis loan levels. The de minimis loan level is the threshold at which an appraisal is required. So anything over the de minimis requires an appraisal. Anything below the de minimis does not require an appraisal. Even though many lenders still get appraisals, they may also use an evaluation. In 2019, the commercial de minimis was increased from $250,000 to $500,000, and the residential was increased from $250,000 to $400,000. The North Dakota waiver doesn't waive the requirement for an appraisal. It simply requires an appraisal to be done, but it may be completed by a non-credentialed appraiser. The question still remains where all of these people who are competent to complete a USPAP compliant appraisal are in North Dakota. With the increase of the de minimis thresholds, the number of appraisals that are required has reduced. Currently, they estimate that nearly 70% of all valuation work being completed in the United States is being completed by non-credentialed people who are not appraisers. At a conference 2 years ago, John Brennan from the Appraisal Foundation explained that he had been in a meeting with a number of U.S. bankers, and he had asked the question, if an appraiser were able to complete a USPAP compliant appraisal / evaluation for the same fee as an evaluation, wouldn't you prefer to have the appraisal? The answer was surprising. It was no. And apparently the reason why is that evaluations are regulated differently than appraisals are. So when a lender wants an evaluation, they want an evaluation and not an appraisal. In 2019, the Utah legislature allowed a carve-out for an appraiser to perform an evaluation in accordance with the interagency guideline without having to comply with standards 1 and 2. Now the problem is that in an appraisal, I have to define the appraisal type and I have to call it an appraisal. And if I call it an appraisal, some lenders won't use it because they are regulated differently and they want an evaluation. This carve-out now allows appraisers to be able to perform that service without having to comply with standards 1 and 2, but they do have to comply with the general principles of USPAP, which includes competency, record keeping, being unbiased, and so forth. Much of the valuation work being completed in the U.S. is done by automated valuations. There is very little regulatory oversight over these valuation services, and there are some efforts to try to create a rating system so that the reliability of these automated valuations can be developed and used by consumers. Many consumers rely on these in trying to determine how much to list or sell a property for, which may or may not be a good measure in providing them with reliable information. Over the past several years, we've seen a proliferation of appraisal technology that has streamlined, simplified, and made the appraiser a little more mobile in providing some of the services that they do. So the first is the laser measurer. They've been out for some time, and as time has gone on, the reliability of these tools has increased. In fact, there are now some tools that can be deployed inside of a residential property and complete a very reliable, complete 3D rendering of the property, including placement of furniture and appliances. Mobile apps are becoming more and more available where an application on a phone or tablet can be used to collect property data. This has proliferated as a result of the GSE's use of third-party data collectors, where photos, sketches, property information are collected on a mobile device and then transmitted back to the cloud or to a client. Software developers are developing more and more sophisticated tools in helping to support appraisal adjustments that are evolving to assist appraisers in becoming or developing more reliable appraisal services. If you have any questions or want to get a hold of me, feel free to contact me. You can log on to the website at morleyandmcconkey.com or email me at valuepro, no E in value, at gmail.com. I am currently serving as the president of the National Association of Appraisers and would invite all of you to consider joining. The National Association of Appraisers is a national appraisal organization with low membership dues of about $100 a year. You will be able to receive member benefits that include communication on some of the latest trends and things that are going on, some discounts on some education, as well as discounts on software and other providers. We as appraisers need to unify to be able to shape the appraisal landscape in a way that benefits both the appraisers and the consumers. And we think the National Association of Appraisers is an excellent way to get you involved. Nearly 70% of the appraisers in the U.S. are not affiliated with an appraisal organization. We'd invite you to consider joining the National Association of Appraisers.